Hello. I am going to talk about the controversial topic of docs are not code. And that is, hear me out, hear me out. So like, before you start throwing eggs and rotten tomatoes, just hear me out. Docs are not code, but having said that, I actually love docs as code. I eat Markdown for breakfast, use a static site generator to make it, and then Concourse automates the whole thing for me. So that's fine. But docs are fundamentally not code. They are text, they are content, they do storytelling. So if we look at some types of documentation, in API docs, okay, we have code snippets and stuff. We can test that they work, that they stay up to date. But in something like a best practice guide, something like an onboarding guide, a team manual, a tutorial, a lot of the meaning and the facts that your users are meant to take away are hidden within the words, and that is something that cannot be automatically tested. Natural language processing has not reached such heights that this can be automated. So then, this is where I think we need to get the community involved, and community here can either be the community of one, which is the sole tech writer in a tech company, or it could be a bigger group of tech writers, or it could be the whole tech community at a company, or anyone who has any sort of like remote knowledge of that set of documentation. And this is because, as we all know, tech moves quickly and content needs to keep up. So even though all of us here, I'm sure, work really hard to keep the documentation in step with new features being developed, sometimes these features have like rippling effects to corners of the documentation you might have not necessarily foreseen. So how can we get the people involved? We have this, so I kind of sort of like ran through the first slide, which said that I work at the UK Government Digital Service. Jen, who gave the Choose Your Own Adventure talk this morning about docs as code, she's my boss. So I'm lucky until Christmas. At GDS, we have, I've spoiled all of it. Great. So at GDS, we have this thing called the GDS Way, which is a manual that sort of like codifies our choices in terms of tech. So like how we write code, how we do version control, how we automatically deploy things. And yeah, it's there, it's open source. And the interesting thing about this thing is that it's maintained by a community of people. There's no dedicated team. There's no sort of formalized way of keeping it going. It's a product of the tech community. And this is where we're introducing Daniel the Manual, Spaniel, not other Daniel the Manuals that may or may not be present here, who is actually a dog. But as you can see, it's a digital-looking dog because it's actually a Slack bot. So this bot posts on the GDS Way Slack channel, notifying its members when certain pages become out of date. The members who contribute to the GDS Way get to determine how long they think a particular piece of documentation will be valid for. So then when I saw that, I was like, yes, I want this for all the documentation websites I'm in charge of looking after. So I was like, great, I'm going to go read the README, and felt quite confused at this point. There were loads of things I wasn't very familiar with. I was very confused, and that's my favorite emoji that does not seem to be turning. It's the rotating thinking face is a really good one. So then I went and asked a friendly tech person, who it turns out developers are generally quite happy to jump in and help. They're happy to do something that's slightly different from their regular day-to-day job. So yeah, this guy was bored, and he helped out. First off, I wanted to understand how it actually worked. So it's like, oh yeah, this is easy. So there is a Slack webhook, which Heroku uses to sort of like trigger Daniel, the Manual Spaniel, regularly to sort of like scan the docs. So like every day, Daniel, the Spaniel is sort of like scanning through the docs, which meant that for every set of documentation, I would have to have a instance of Heroku and the Slack webhook. This is not a viable option if you have many sets of documentation. So then we decided to switch to Travis CI and did the whole integration, boiled the whole integration down to one line change in the Travis configuration. So all we had to do, all people have to do now is put in the URL for their pages JSON for the pages.json. And yeah, so then Daniel the manual spaniel scans the docs every day, but not on weekends, because Daniel the manual spaniel is also a civil servant and we don't work weekends. So now the plan is to release this for all the docs. I put it on the docs that I was working on, and I was quite disappointed to see that the devs weren't really acting on this. They reacted with dog-based Slack emojis, but didn't really do anything about reviewing the documentation. So then it took a bit more engagement on the side, so like talking to people and so like training courses, raising awareness of documentation. But last week, someone on my team raised a PR because Daniel asked them to check the page. So there we go. It can be done.